Oh yeah, it's recording.
All right.
So hey, welcome back to the. I'm about to say podcast. Hey, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today I have a very special guest with me, y'all. This is my squad leader, so the real deal. So he's gonna introduce himself, and we'll go from there.
So my name is Ryan Baptista. I'm 27 years old. I'm originally from the Philippines, but currently living in the state of Maine. It's really cold. Hate that place. Love South Carolina, which we're at right now. And I have a wife with a soon-to-be baby girl in January.
We're excited.
And 2 fur dogs, fur kids.
You fur babies?
Fur babies.
Okay, cool. So you're a National Guardsman, and you went through ROTC.
Yep.
So I decided to bring him because that's not my path at all, and there was a lot of stuff that I was ignorant to. Like, I didn't even know that you could go like Reserve or National Guard through ROTC program. So I was like, if I don't know this, then there's probably a bunch of people that didn't know. So you want to tell us like what made you join the Army and kind of?
Yeah. So I joined the Army right out of high school, pretty much. I've always had a military background growing up. Family in the Philippines, there were mostly Marines in my family, in the Philippines side of my family. And growing up, my mother met my father in my stepfather now, in the Philippines, and he was a Marine. So he was stationed in the Philippines for about like a year, which is kind of crazy. Came to Maine when I was around 2001, just before 9/11 happened. Thank you, Lord, because that would have been really hard for me to like come in the United States. It would have been way difficult for entry, but I was able to get in before that incident happened. So my father was in the Marines. My grandfather was with the 82nd Airborne.
Okay.
So yeah, so he was 82nd Airborne, retired as a staff sergeant. And so growing up, I've always had some type of military role model. And I grew up that way because I worked for my grandfather for the longest time. And so right out of high school, I had this thing in my head where I was pretty much like, I'm gonna join the military, I'm a troublemaker. Like, I didn't want to like fall in like the party realm, and just didn't want to fall behind like everyone else, because that was just me. Like, my grades were not outstanding, but they were okay. So I decided to just constantly join the military, improve like how I am as a person, pretty much. And so I enlisted in the Army in like 2012 as a combat engineer, and graduated in 2013. I was stationed in Fort Bliss for about 3 to 4 years, until I started ETSing out and decided to basically get my education, because back then they were like, you know, you need your bachelor's. That's what my PI was telling me, because I was talking to him, and that's what really got me to think about being an officer, because he was a role model to me growing up and being enlisted. And he's like, you should get your bachelor's. It's a good way to like open up doors, opportunities. So came back home in Maine, did ROTC 2016, I believe spring or fall time frame, but that's when I started ROTC. At the same time studying criminal justice and psychology.
Okay, so like, how does one like start the process to go ROTC? Are you like, hey, I want to just join, or how's that work?
So it was kind of like a trial and error type of thing. My PL didn't really tell me much. He just told me like the benefits of ROTC, like, hey, you're gonna make a lot of money. Like, it's really, really good. And I was like, all right, I'm all about money.
Makes the world go round.
Exactly. And I got there and I talked to this ROTC recruiter in the University of Maine, and he's like, hey, you can either go active duty, reserve, or guard, depending on like what route you want to go. And I was already in the guard just because I ETS and transferred from active duty to National Guard, because I like my health insurance, I like my part-time pay, and I just I still enjoyed it. So I stuck to the National Guard, and they have this thing called GRFD, which is Guard Reserve FDs. I can't remember what the FD is.
Something.
It's something, but it's 100%. The main National Guard or National Guard Bureau is going to pay for your education at 100% cost.
So you didn't have to use your GI Bill?
I did not have to use my GL whatsoever.
What?
100%. The main National Guard paid for it. In technicality, they didn't really pay for it. It was like the Department of Defense, the federal government, obviously, but they just gave it to the main guard. And basically, here's your scholarship, we'll pay for your tuition.
Wow.
Yeah. So I am not debt free, but better off than most people or students out there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I used my GI Bill when I got off active duty, and I mean, I still have some of it left over, but the amount of money that school costs, I'm like,
that's crazy.
It's insane. Like $150,000, like, for a piece of paper, like, when you really just think about it.
So how did yours go?
So I got out, and I was just like out completely, and then I went through like the VA to like get certified. They like certify that you qualify for those benefits, and then I did post 9/11,
right.
And they just signed a check to like the school, and I went to a yellow ribbon school, so like half of the tuition like they paid for, and then the other half came from the VA, and then they gave me a stipend like E5 BAH to just go to school. So did you kind of get that like BAH as well?
Well, we got this thing called stipend.
Okay.
And it's just about $500 a month. So basically, it was actually really nice. Like the ROTC scholarship was actually really nice. On top of the tuition assistance, they gave you a book stipend.
Yeah.
So like $1,200 on top of, as a cadet, you get I think a total of. It is not, so it was depending on your school year. So like this is MS1 through MS4. So MS1 means like you're a freshman.
Okay.
And then 2 means so you're sophomore until you become a senior. And basically at the senior level you're receiving up to $500 a month. Okay. In stipend, but they break it up into bi-weekly, so you're making $250. Okay. So like on top of the tuition assistance, you're living book stipend, and on top of a monthly stipend.
College,
right? I didn't know. Like it was too good to be true, and I was like, man, should I sign my name to the devil?
Part 2.
Do I want to do this? And I took the hit for it, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something to, get school paid for and not have that stress when you graduate. On top of being stressed to work and make your tuition and your bills like all add up.
Absolutely.
I think that's, I don't know. I never like really experienced it because the first time I went to school, like my parents paid for it and then I had scholarships. But like the average person has to like work and, get loans and stuff like that. And it's like on the back end when you get out, you're like, I did all these great things. And then it's like, here, we want our money back. Yeah. So with that being said, so how easy is it for like just the average person to walk off the street since you had experience or you were kind of in it? How easy is it for just a normal college student to go, I want to join ROTC?
It's fairly easy. Like if you have a subpar plan, I wouldn't say full committed plan, but eventually you will need one for a degree. Your freshman year, you can kind of be in the generalized like prerequisite classes, but come your sophomore junior year, the ROTC academic officer is basically like, hey, like what's your degree that you're going to need to accomplish, like because they need to send that up to whoever in the hired to basically certify you as an officer in the Army. But basically, if you're a student who has a good GPA coming right out of high school, or if you had like prior schooling that you did at a community college, you're good. If you're PT and you're somewhat in shape, like you can progress and do better. And to fight for it, it's, from my experience and what I've seen from my point of view, I know some of the active duty guys, they kind of had to fight for it. It had to take them a little bit longer to get a fully 100% like scholarship with active duty because of the OML points.
Okay.
For me, it was easy because I was already a guard, so I got my 100% right after my first semester. Some of the guys waited 2 years, some waited 2 semesters. Like, it took forever for them to get theirs.
So it's not like a thing if you're like, hey, I want to do ROTC, and they're like, hey, we're going to pay for your school right away. It's not like that.
It's not like that. They had to see like where you're at with your academic before they spend all this money on you.
That makes sense because they're investing in you.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, cool. So kind of talked about how you can go about joining. So what are the requirements, or what does it look like for a ROTC student like in college? What is that balance like?
Like,
so like, are you waking up like, you know, so here we PT in the morning and then we go to class and then it's like we have the rest of the day. How does ROTC affect your normal college life?
So it was fairly busy. Like, I learned about time management. For me, it was like I was studying 2 degrees because it was a dual bachelor's at the same time. I was working full time with the main honor guards because I needed to pay for my bills. Like, my parents never paid for anything. I had to pretty much buy everything on my own, pay for health insurance, everything. At the same time, going to ROTC. So time management was my #1 priority, really, doing that. But Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in the mornings, we would basically do morning PT from 06 to 700. As MS1s and MS2s, basically you're learning about basic soldiering skills. Think of it as, you know, you're going through basic training, just, you know, broken up into 2 years.
Okay.
And learn how to become a soldier, phasing movements, courtesies, professional development, etc. And on top of that, you got your Monday, Wednesday, Friday PT, and Wednesday around like, I think 1,500 to 1,700. You do this thing called lab, and what it is a 2-hour lab exercise of your out in the field. We have this thing in the University of Maine where there's just hundreds of acres of forest, so we're using it as if we were in a training environment. And so MS1s and MS2s, they're basically acting as either like a team leader or just, you know, your basic private like type of position. And then like your 3rd and 4th, they're acting as like, you know, like leadership roles. So like first sergeant roles, company commander roles, PL roles, XO roles, all that stuff. And then your MS4 year, you're like a staff, your staff positions.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah, so up from S1 through S6 type of learning environment.
Wow. So is that like the entire year, or you guys rotate?
We rotate.
Okay.
Yeah. Different leadership positions.
Okay. Now, do you get like graded on all of these activities, or is that how the OML kind of
gets
ranked? Okay.
So for the active duty guys and the reserve guys, it's pretty much are getting ranked that way, based off their GPA, their PT, and their performance. And it's like your ROTC. Yeah. So you got like you have a trifecta.
Yeah.
Like being up there, like competing for scholarships and stuff like that. And what the cadre does is it's basically the senior rater profile that we did.
Okay, yeah.
It's just more on a simpler and basic level. And they basically like look at you like where you're at with your GPA, like you on top of your class at PTA, you're doing 280. Used to be the APFT, obviously. Right in the ACFT now. And basically they grade you that way until you get your scholarship. From your MS1 and MS2 year, that's when you really get your scholarship. Now your third and fourth year, it gets a little bit more hectic. Like it gets stressful, like really, really stressful. You get graded during your ROTC, so like you're highly qualified, mostly qualified.
Oh, so y'all are really ranking like
that?
that.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like they do it at like the basic level, obviously, but you know it's to give you that kind of experience, kind of like just opening you up to like this is what you're gonna expect in the military once you're in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And we FTX is what I call it, the field training exercise. Is where they really grade you like overall. If you have a basic knowledge and you're kind of paying attention in class, you should be fine. But if you don't, your professor of military science, the PMS, is basically going to be like, yeah, you're not worth the scholarship.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And
so they can snatch it any time.
Right. If you don't get that scholarship by your sophomore or junior year, you're out of the program.
Wait a minute. Okay. See, what?
Yeah.
So I thought it was like way different than that.
Nah, dude, they have to invest money in you. They're putting thousands of dollars into you.
Yeah. I didn't know that they could just like take it away. I mean, it makes sense, but I thought it would be more so of like, you got a DUI, you got in trouble, like your academics are suffering, not just like, hey, you're maybe not retaining this information or, you know, you're not. That's cutthroat.
Yeah, it's a mixture of things, but ultimately, like, if, you know, you're, like you said, you're getting a DUI, just not being a responsible student outside of ROTC, that could also, like, you know, jeopardize your career, pretty much. That's once you're in ROTC, it's considered a career.
Right. Whew.
It's kind of crazy.
So it's weird. So, you know, every component kind of talks trash, a little bit of trash about the other component, because, you know, like, just being honest, right? It's the same thing. Like, the branches, like, every branch is like, this is the better branch. Like, this is the best branch, or, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, but it's all in good fun. Like, at the end of the day, nobody really genuinely is like, oh, the Air Force sucks. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has a role, you know, in making sure that America stays safe, right? So it's always interesting because for me, the OCS path, everybody's like, oh, it's just the hardest thing ever. But it's like, you know, once you're there and you get the material, like, yeah, it is like drinking from a fire hose. And I had that, like, you know, that connotation in my head of like, oh, ROTC is so easy because, you know, you just get your, you know, you just get your school paid for and you do it a little while. But now you're telling me it's like, no, I will snatch this from you. Like, you better be on your P's and Q's. So every element has,
oh, absolutely,
it's, you know, negative to it. Well, that's not really a negative, just holding you accountable,
exactly.
Which is cool, which is like neat. But
it's like you know, when people say like it's not a right,
yeah, for sure,
it's like something you work for and you have to earn it.
Now
that's basically what our cadre, like, he was a hard guy. He was mechanized infantry, so he was very like to the point, cutthroat. If you're not doing well, I'm gonna snatch the scholarship from you, and you're just gonna be a regular student.
So, okay, if they snatch your scholarship from you, do you have to pay back that money? Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
As I believe, I think the contract states, like, if your scholarship gets taken away from you due to certain circumstances, you are required to, at the same time, do your time in the military. So you're either a private or a specialist, depending if you get a degree, obviously.
Right.
You're a specialist. You have to do so many years at the same time. The DOD, or the government, it's basically like, you're in debt, bro. You're in debt for a long time.
Whoa, that's wild. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like that for us too. Like, if you failed something twice, you got recycled, and then if you failed the same thing, it was like they're not even giving you a chance to take it again. It's like, you're just going to be a sergeant, and whatever we feel is necessary.
Wait, so they So basically, you have 2 tries.
You have 2 tries. So there were people in my company like originally that didn't pass land nav. So the first test they didn't pass with our company. The second test they didn't pass. They were like, okay, now you're moving to the company behind us. And then if you failed land nav in the second company, it was like you were done.
You don't get recycled?
No, they're like, it's enough.
Wow.
You know? So
that's stressful. That's stressful.
Especially like for me, like land nav, I was literally like crying in the woods. Like almost. I was like, oh my gosh, the boars. You know what I mean?
The boars?
It's boars out there, like wild. Yo, if you go to Benning, you know that it's wild boars out there. Red Diamond, that's what like the Rangers do.
Yeah.
It's like split off. We did like the easy side and they have like a whole thing. But you hear the boars in the middle of the night, it's life changing.
That sounds fun, actually.
You would say that.
Imagine like sleeping in the field and all you hear is just snorting.
Yeah, that's what it is. And coyotes.
Dude, that's awesome. That's actually pretty fun. That would be so much fun, dude.
Former combat engineer right here, right? I'm like, that was not fun. So
just like kill one and then just like, hey guys,
we're
gonna be cooking tonight. We're gonna be eating good other than MREs tonight.
No MREs. No. So okay, so that's ROTC. So what is camp like? I always hear people talk about camp. So what is camp and what is that kind of like?
It was so horrible. Like MS3 year and MS4 year. I'm always, if you've ever been in the military, you have this thing called what they call shitbags.
Yes.
And I definitely was like the halfway in between professionalism and shitbag, and I was leaning towards a shitbag, and I was like, how am I gonna get out of this? Because I heard so many horrible stories about it.
Yeah.
But I was just like, all right, it's Fort Knox. It isn't too bad. I've been to basic training before. I've slept out in the field. It's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Got to it's what they call CST now, and it's located in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Okay. And CST stands for Cadet Summer Training.
Okay.
And you're there for, it was 31 days, but they've extended to 37.
Okay.
And 75 to 80% of your time is pretty much in the field.
Whew.
Yeah.
Like just continuous in the field, or do you get a refit on the weekend?
You get a refit like in between the week.
Okay, yeah.
But I think I'd rather be in the field the whole time because coming back to like shower and basically getting a refit, it's like I don't want to go back out in the field. And
no,
same. Exactly. You're like, man, I'll just stay here for the next 14 days.
Yeah. It's definitely
suck
different.
it up. Just suck it up.
Gotta embrace the suck.
Yeah.
You gotta embrace the suck, right? It was cold. Like, that was the first time that I think I ever really experienced, like, cold. So I'm from Chicago originally, right?
Yeah.
But I don't just sit outside when it's cold.
Oh, you don't sleep out in the field.
Yo.
Like, screw that.
That is, like, a different cold. I remember we had a captain, infantry.
Yeah.
Went to Fort Drum, all types of stuff. He's like, man, you're just embracing the suck. And I was, like, so cold that, like, I couldn't even shiver. But my, like, battle buddy was like... and I was just like, I gotta embrace the suck. Because I like the field.
Yeah.
I don't like the cold, though. It's like a different feeling, though. It's like... I don't know how to explain it. Once you, like, tackle the field, it's like you can almost do anything.
Oh, yeah. It's like you're there. And I think what makes it better is probably, like, the people around you. Mm-hmm. Just kind of, like... You guys are just sucking it up together.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are just in a crappy situation. And you're, like...
Make the best of it.
2 hours into 24 hours, no sleep. And you're just like loopy.
Yeah. Those bonds, man. Those bonds.
That's great.
Get to know your people. Like, that's one thing that I think people say all the time. Is like, get to know your squad. Get to know that. Because, like, those people are going to make those moments less sucky.
Exactly.
For sure.
It's such a... Like, our squad, I think we have the best squad in AG Bolick.
Nicki Minaj in music all day. The Barbs.
Rage Gage.
Rage Gage. Ooh, I wish he was down here.
Probably see him the next... Probably see if we can do an interview.
I know, yeah. Gage is so awesome. So that's camp. What other things that you guys do, like, throughout it? So you have your leadership. You have, you know, your camp. You have, you know, those Monday through Friday PT. what other things are you doing for ROTC? Are you doing like community service? Are you doing like, is that like requirements? Or?
Yeah. Actually, that helps out like your own mile points if you're outside. Like, so we have like duty details that we do for the University of Maine.
Okay.
Some of them are like cleaning up the campus. Some of them are, you know, cleaning up like hockey games or football games that we do. And basically it's to raise, like the school pays ROTC like a certain amount of money. What it does is called the 20th Maine program. And there's like a little history behind it. It's long, but basically the 20th Maine is it's basically when the Maine itself, the Maine militia, like back then, like during the Civil War, basically helped the Union and Confederate battle. And 20th Maine, the Battle of Bull Run, if you've heard of that story. Yeah, we actually were support infantry, and what we did was most of Maine militias went to go support General Washington in that Battle of Bull Run.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's like rich history.
It's crazy. I didn't even know what 28th Maine was until like they gave us an overview about it.
Yeah.
And so it's like a funding program for ROTC that the university does to help us out in order for us to like have our military ball.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
Okay.
military ball, like certain events like that allows us to, you know, just be doing military stuff that we can do. And so we use like those type of funds for every fiscal year that we do.
Okay. So do you get to be a normal college student though?
Oh yeah.
That answers your question.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Oh man. Bapty over
like,
here.
The best part was it was our MS4 year last year, senior year of school, and it was our branch night, and we went to this place called Mason's. It's like a bar place in Maine. Anyways, our lieutenant colonel was like, we had PT the next day, so we have our branch on Thursday, but Friday was a PT day.
Yeah.
And so one of our friends was like, he was active duty. If I get aviation, like,
over.
I'm buying tequilas for everyone. and so we basically were like, he got his branch. He got aviation that night. So everyone was like whooping, hollering, like going crazy. And we're like, he's like, there's no way we're gonna make it to PT the next day. We're like, what are we gonna tell the lieutenant colonel? So we convinced our BC to be like,
No PT.
or like, yeah, I was like, we should just talk to the lieutenant colonel and see if we can pretty much be like, yo, can we take tomorrow off?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah.
Ah, that's nice.
Yeah, so the guy basically bought us shots the whole night. We got messed up. And everyone else, like the juniors, the freshmen, did PT the next day.
Oh.
While we were recovering from a hangover.
Typical officers, right?
That's literally probably the best like thing ever.
So do you get to go to like, okay, so outside of like the ROTC stuff, do you get to go to like football games, basketball games? Are you still able to maintain that type of stuff?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We support a lot of our big football and hockey games.
Okay.
I'm sure you've seen it, like tailgating.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Into a party school.
it's so much fun. Like we tailgate, obviously we have like, we got a lot of Maine is like a bunch of hillbillies, hicks.
Bro.
So we'd have trucks, literally with grills in the bed of the truck.
Y'all lit. That's like Alabama.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
But colder.
Exactly. And we just like cook it, we'd like drink beer, and it's just a good time.
That's me. I'm coming to Maine. The video with the snowmobile, that was what put it over the edge for me. I said, I'm going to Maine.
It's wild. It's such a good time. I'd say ROTC was one of the best experiences of my life. If you want to like be part student, part soldier.
Yeah.
But if you want to get it done over with, probably go CS.
They don't pay for your school though. I mean, they can.
I mean, they get you get paid.
You get paid either
to
way.
Party.
This is true.
You get paid to party.
I like
and that's
it.
what that's what my PL told me.
You get paid to party. That's what he said.
That's what he said. He's like he was all about the money.
I mean, I'm not mad about it. Especially, I think it's different too when you come from like making that money. Because what'd you leave active duty as?
As a B4.
Okay,
like
so yeah, you were
specialist.
making some money.
Mhm.
So you're going from like making steady, you know exactly how much your paycheck is going to be every 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
To now, like, ooh, if you only work this amount of hours, you're going to only get this much. So that's like a change. Like,
it's like, to me, it's kind of like a blessing to see, like, I see my friends in college who is like over 100,000 in student loans, and their degrees are like physical therapist, like physician assistant.
Yeah.
And their entry level starting pay is like 80 to 90,000.
Yeah.
And we're getting paid just about the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe
No debt.
several $1,000s less.
Yeah.
But we have our school paid for.
Right.
We have free health insurance. Like, you can't beat that.
Right. I'm with you. If I knew about ROTC, like, I think if I had known about it, I may have gone that route.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I didn't know you could go reserve, and I was like, I'm not committed to the Army just yet. I kind of just want to date the Army. I don't want to get married to it just yet.
Did you have a degree prior to switching over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Like, what did you do? Like, what was your plan once you were in the Navy and you were planning to get out? You didn't really have
I was
a
like,
plan?
so honestly, I was like, oh, I'm going to stay in, and then, you know, I'm going to do 20 years, and then, you know, life happens, and you're like, I think you get to a point, and I feel like a lot of people get to this point where they're like, it's either like that cutoff where you're like, I'm going to get out, or if I go a day beyond this, I'm going to stay in for 20 years, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
And so...
Like, how were you long in the Navy?
So I did 5 years active duty.
5 years active.
And then I missed it, and I was like, I took 2 years off, went back to school.
Oh, you took 2 years off.
And then I was like, I'm going to join the reserves. But like...
What made you join the Army?
They told me I couldn't. Like, these guys in my... Well, they didn't say that I couldn't. Guys in my unit were like, I would never do that. And I was like, why not? And they were like, oh, it's just the most... like, it's just so hard. And I was like, really? And so I was like, you know what? I heard that the Army, like, really treated their people well. Like, they were, like, people first. The Navy is very bureaucratic, in a sense. Like, it just kind of has to be that way.
I feel like it's kind of all the branches now.
Yeah, but I was also in, like, in 2009. Like, I went to, you know what I'm saying? Like, the first time in 2009, so it's very different. So now it's that structure of, like, people first.
Right.
And so...
That's true. The culture difference.
Yeah, for sure. And so going from making, I mean, I was like an E5 in the Navy, and I was going to drill, and I was making like $200. I was like, this is garbage. It's a waste of my time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, this is trash. And so they were like, oh, yeah, you know, it's an O1E, blah, 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 blah. And I was like,
oh, yeah, that's right. Because if you did 5 years,
yeah,
as an officer, you get like a pay bump. And it's it's actually a considerable amount.
Yeah. Like, I literally, my drill pay, I pay for my car. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, that's easy. And I was like, geez, would I rather deploy on a ship? Because no matter what your job is, you're going on a ship. You know what I mean? So I was like, would I rather deploy on a ship or rather I deploy on land? And it was something different for me. So it was like challenging myself. Like, I had never been camping and land at, like, none of that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to push myself and challenge myself. And they were like, sure, we'll take you. Like, you know what I mean? So that's how it...
So, like, what made you become an Army officer rather than a Navy officer?
Because I felt like I had done that. You know what I mean? Not officer side, but like, I felt like I experienced the Navy, and that was great. But people literally were like, if you join the Army, like, the Army is about taking care of their people. And at first I didn't believe it, because when I went to like basic, so I came in as an NCO. I had to go back to basic training. And I was like, I have royally screwed up. Because I was like, this is trash. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, it was trash.
They treat you like you're like a scum. You're just the bottom of the barrel.
Well, that, but then they were like, oh, well, you're an NCO, so you should know X, Y, Z. And I was like, well, obviously, if I knew that, then I wouldn't be in basic training. So, you know, it was like kind of a...
yeah.
It was just stupid. And so then, like, they would expect me to keep the company in line during basic training. And I'm like, they don't even listen to y'all. So I was getting smoked for, like, you know what I mean? So I was like, this is trash. I've been lied to. And
because they see that rank and they're like, oh, he knows her. She knows her stuff. She knows the military.
And I was like, bruh. And the Army and Navy are very, very different. Like, you would think that all the branches are the same. They are not. Like, it is so, so different. And I tell people, like, now experiencing both.
What's the difference?
Like,
I don't know anything about the Navy except for my father in the Marines.
Yeah.
But.
So there was always like a plan of the day, like written out. Like the schedule for everybody was like written out every day. And not to say that people didn't take care of their people in the Navy, because they did. I was an engineer, but not like when I say that, people are like, oh, I wasn't blowing up stuff like that, you know, like what you guys do.
Yeah,
but
that's a good time.
So it's just everybody. It almost seems like everybody in the Navy is like they want to be an admiral. Mm-hmm. Like that's like the long-term goal. Like everybody wants to be an admiral. Everybody did ROTC. Everybody did like the Naval Academy. Yeah. So it was like you were purebred, and I was like, well, dang, there's no space. Navy, yeah, it was like no. I was like, there's no space for me here. But then, you know, you look back and you're like, there's obviously people who have done it. You know.
Oh, absolutely.
And you don't pick your branch. Like how we're like, I'm an AG officer and I'm gonna be AG, but I might go and do like another staff duty, or I might go do something else. But I'm always gonna come back to AG in a sense. It wasn't like that. That's not that for the Navy. If you're like a surface,
are you guys only
officer,
limited to certain branches in the Navy?
So like the most common is like SWO, like a surface warfare officer. So you can be like a navigator.
That's pretty cool.
An admino. So it's like you don't really. You're not a subject matter expert at like anything.
You're just a general.
You're just a general officer, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like that. I want to like. I want to be like, no. This is what I know.
Yeah.
This is what I know. So that was that. But I love the Navy. Like honestly, I think there's some things that they do really well that the Army could adopt. I think that the Army does some stuff really well that the Navy could adopt.
Huh.
So
that's kind of weird to think about. Like, of course, we don't think about the Navy very much.
Yeah.
I feel like when the Army thinks we could adopt something, it's more like, why don't we adopt Air Force?
Yeah.
Because they have such a better system than anyone.
Yeah. And a lot of people, you're like, I realize that, you know, the Army is like the biggest branch, so there are going to be more opportunities for failure because you have more people touching things.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, I always take that with a grain of salt. So, I mean, it's not bad though.
How did you kind of go into the reserves rather than the active duty Army?
So, I wasn't like 100% sold. Like I said, I was like, I don't know. I don't want to commit to it. And then I'm like, I hate it because my goal is to retire at this point.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
knees.
I'm already 8 years in. Like it's time to like just collect a check, you know, and it's passive income at, I mean, I'll be what, like 42 or 43 when I can like retire. So I'm like, okay, just